The air on the battlefield was thick with the acrid scent of burning metal and ionized plasma. Smoke curled into the sky, blotting out the twin suns of Zorith. Princess Lira'Vael, heir to the celestial dominion, stood atop the ruins of a shattered war machine, her silver armor gleaming despite the grime of battle. Her 4 arms trembled as she gripped her plasma lance, its energy core flickering weakly. Around her, the remnants of her elite guard lay broken, their once proud banners trampled into the mud. The humans had done this. They were supposed to be primitive, a species barely capable of interstellar travel. Yet here they were, tearing through the Dominion's finest warriors with terrifying efficiency. Lira'Vael had heard the stories, how humans fought with a ferocity that defied reason, how they could endure wounds that would cripple even the hardiest Zorathian. She had dismissed them as exaggerations. Now, she wasn't so sure. A low growl echoed through the ruins, and Lira'Vael's heart skipped a beat. She turned, her lance humming to life as a figure emerged from the smoke. It was a human, clad in battered combat armor, his helmet cracked and visor shattered. Blood streaked his face, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made her step back. "Princess," the human said, his voice rough but steady. "You've lost. Surrender, and I'll make sure you're treated fairly." Lira'Vael's mandibles twitched in anger. "Fairly? You invade our worlds, slaughter our people, and speak of fairness." The human tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "This isn't an invasion. It's a rescue. Your dominion enslaves entire species, including humans. We're here to put an end to that." "Lies," she spat, her lance flaring brighter. "The Dominion brings order to the galaxy. We are the rightful rulers." The human sighed, hefting a massive rifle onto his shoulder. "I was hoping you'd see reason. But if you want to do this the hard way, so be it." Before she could react, he charged. Lira'Vael had trained her entire life for combat. She was faster, stronger, and more agile than any human. Yet as she dodged his first strike, she realized this was no ordinary warrior. His movements were precise, calculated, and utterly relentless. Every blow she landed seemed to barely faze him, while his attacks forced her to retreat further and further. Her lance struck his armor, leaving a scorch mark but failing to penetrate. He countered with a brutal swing of his rifle, the impact sending her sprawling. She rolled to her feet, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "You're strong," the human admitted, circling her. "But you're fighting for the wrong side." "I fight for my people," she snarled, lunging at him. Their weapons clashed, sparks flying as plasma met steel. Lira'Vael pushed herself to the limit, her 4 arms a blur of motion. But the human matched her blow for blow, his endurance seemingly limitless. "Why won't you fall?" she screamed, desperation creeping in her voice. "Because I have to keep going," he replied, his tone grim. "For my people, for everyone your dominion has hurt." The words struck her like a physical blow. She faltered, and in that moment of weakness, he disarmed her, sending her lance skittering across the ground. Before she could react, he grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground. "It's over," he said, his grip firm but not crushing. Lira'Vael struggled, her vision darkening as she clawed at his arm. But deep down, she knew he was right. She had lost. When she awoke, she was in a cell. The walls were cold and gray, the air sterile. Her armor was gone, replaced by a simple gray jumpsuit. She felt exposed, vulnerable. The door slid open, and the human warrior stepped inside. He was no longer in his armor, wearing instead a plain uniform. His face was calm, almost sympathetic. "How are you feeling?" he asked. She glared at him. "What do you care?" "I care," he said simply. "My name is Captain Elias Drake." And despite what you might think, I'm not your enemy. You defeated me. You destroyed my forces. How are you not my enemy? Drake sat down across from her, his expression serious. Because I believe you're better than this. You're not a tyrant, Lira'Vael. You're a leader, and leaders have a responsibility to do what's right. She looked away, her pride warring with the doubts that had begun to creep in. What do you want from me? I want you to see the truth, he said. The Dominion's empire is built on suffering. Billions of lives have been ruined because of your people's greed. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can change things. And if I refuse, Drake sighed, then you'll remain a prisoner. But I don't think that's who you are. Lira'Vael clenched her fists, her mind racing. She had always believed in the Dominion's mission, in its divine right to rule. But now, faced with the consequences of that belief, she wasn't so sure. Days turned into weeks. Drake visited her often, bringing her food and water and answering her questions about humanity. She learned of their history, their struggles, and their unyielding determination to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Slowly, reluctantly, she began to see them in a new light. One day, Drake entered her cell with a datapad. I have something to show you, he said, handing it to her. She hesitated before taking it. The screen displayed footage of Dominion labor camps, where countless species toiled under brutal conditions. Among them were humans, their faces gaunt and eyes hollow. This can't be real, she whispered, her voice trembling. It is, Drake said softly. This is what your Dominion does. This is what you've been fighting to protect. Lira'Vael felt something inside her break. She had always believed in the Dominion's righteousness, but now she saw the truth. And it horrified her. What do I do? She asked, her voice barely audible. Drake knelt before her, his eyes filled with determination. Help us. Help us end this. You have the power to make a difference. She looked at him, her resolve hardening. I will. The rebellion began in earnest. With Lira'Vael's knowledge of Dominion tactics and infrastructure, the human forces struck at key targets, crippling the Empire's ability to wage war. She fought alongside Drake, her once proud armor now bearing the colors of the resistance. It wasn't easy. Many of her former allies saw her as a traitor, and the guilt of her past actions weighed heavily on her. But Drake was always there, offering support and reminding her of the lives they were saving. In the final battle, they faced the Dominion's flagship, a massive warship commanded by her own father, the Emperor. As they boarded the vessel, Lira'Vael felt a pang of sorrow. She had never wanted this. You don't have to do this, Drake said, placing a hand on her shoulder. Yes, I do, she replied, her voice steady. For my people, for everyone. They fought their way to the bridge, where the Emperor waited. He looked at her with a mixture of anger and disappointment. You betray your own blood, he spat. I betray nothing, she said, raising her weapon. I choose justice. The battle was fierce, but in the end, the Emperor fell. As the Dominion's forces surrendered, Lira'Vael felt a strange sense of peace. In the aftermath, she stood on the bridge of the human flagship, looking out at the stars. Drake joined her, his presence a comforting constant. What happens now, she asked. Now, he said, we rebuild. Together.